For the last 2 years now, I've been falling more and more in love with books. And while I am Swedish and can read Swedish really good, I do not like those kind of books. And while I can read them with no problem, it gives me a bit of a different feeling to it than the books in English. So the books I read are mostly in English. Examples of my favorite book are the entire Throne of Glass series, the Invisible Library series. They're amazing books and I fell in love with them from the start. But as I said before, I have only been falling in love with books for the last 2 years. So what happened with the other 16 years of me being on this earth? Why would I fall in love with books later in life? Is it A, because I hated books before? B, because I lost interest in them after my mentor told me not to read the higher level books when I was young because I didn't understand them? Or C, I never gave books a real chance. Have everyone answered? Good. It was B, because I lost interest in them after my mentor told me not to read the higher level books when I was young because I didn't understand them. For the ones who got it right, here's a gold star. The story is very simple of why I lost interest in books. It said it right there in the answer, because of my mentor. But it's not as simple as it seems, because I did continue reading after I lost interest in the book series that I didn't understand. I don't remember the series that I read at the time of this happening. I was young and loved to read, and the specific books as I remember of was about heroes who save the day over and over again in several books. And while the language in it was a bit more higher than I was used to, and was displayed as older kids' books, I still loved to read it and understood what it was about. The trick that I used to understand what was written was very simple. If I didn't understand a word, I just continued to read, and because of that, I understood more because for me, that one word I couldn't understand wasn't important, as long as I understood the entire picture, if you understand what I mean. But when my mentor told me to explain what the book was about, I started having a really hard time to explain the book and its content. And it only made it worse as I got scared of trying to explain knowing she was judging my every word. This problem I had as a child never really went away. If you would put me on the spot to explain Throne of Glass to you, I would probably react the same way as I did as a child. My mentor saw me struggling to explain what the book was about and just told me to stop reading the book and to pick up an easier book to read, which I did. I picked this book up that had pictures in it and the sentences were really simple and barely filled a page. And while I loved to read these books, I soon grew out of them and instead started to get into more gaming, drawing and writing. Whenever I got a book from school, I wouldn't throw it away and say I read it. Instead, I would read it, love it, and then throw it away, never to read again. But I didn't like to read outside of school. The books we got in school were really easy to read, and the books I wrote myself had harder words and more pages than the books. Now by this stage, we're at the age of 15, barely reading, spending all days by computer and phone. But I soon went to high school, still not into reading. My Swedish teacher came to class one day and told us to go and get a book from the library, which I did. I took the book that had been signed to us and went upstairs and read it as soon as I got there. I was excited to read this one, even if I wasn't into reading, and soon finished the book before we were supposed to be finished with it. And this was a game changer. The book we read were harder than the ones we got at my old school and had more interesting storylines. So when I finished reading, I picked up the next book in the series and continued to read that. And when I came half through the series, my English teacher, the same one that teaches Swedish, thought it was a great idea to pick up another book for our liking and read that. I did get upset because I was in the middle of the other series, but went to the library once more and found a series called The Invisible Library. I explained to my teacher how I wanted to finish the book I was already reading before I continued on the next, and he was kind enough to let me do that, saying that I was such a fast reader that I could catch up soon after him, which I did. I finished the first book of the series and continued to read and picked up another book, at least once every month. It was great and all until I think it was the year after, where my teacher told the class to pick out a new book that was based in real life. It didn't have to be a real life book that was based on real life events, but it had to take place on Earth with the problems that we have here with no magic whatsoever. I got nervous because the books I usually read are fantasy books, and to go to a completely different kind of book got me worried that I wouldn't find a book to my liking, especially in Swedish. After searching for a book for a few minutes, I walked over to the librarian and asked if he could help me pick out a book, and explained what kind of book I needed, and he walked over to one of the books, handed it to me, and said, "I think you'll like this one." So I borrowed the book and read it. It was very thick and had many words in it, and the worst, it was in Swedish. But I liked it. The plot was interesting, and it was about 3 different people who had their own sort of problems and in the end meet up. But I did also read Throne of Glass in the middle of all of this, and is my absolute favorite series that I love with my whole heart. And while it's a bit harder to read with words I don't understand, I don't care. I understand what they say and it makes me smile at times. If I would put a meaning to this whole story that I've told is that you don't have to listen to others. You enjoy what you enjoy, and if people say you're bad at it, or in my case, don't understand what you read, you don't have to listen. It's always great to improve what you do while enjoying it, but it's also really important not to take something to heart. There will always be people who say you're not good enough and while those words hurt, it shouldn't make you quit on something you love. I hope you all liked this video, and if you have a favorite book that you love to read, then please tell me in the comments down below. I would love to find new books to read and expand my small collection of books. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!